Hey guys, good morning. I'm going to start off the anatomy videos today. So I think I'll probably try and do a couple of them each week, just breaking down the different portions of the body and giving you some basic tips on how to represent the muscles and the shapes of each portion of the anatomy. So, but first, I really want to start off with giving you an overall, sorry about the camera, basic rundown of the human figure and give you its proportions so that you can have something to play with while we're going along and doing the rest of the more focused videos on portions of the anatomy. So when drawing the figure, you can run a line, make 2 points and run a line. If you divide that line in half, give or take, and then you break the top half up. I want to make this thing longer. So in the center of that line, well, not in the center of it, but at the top and centered on the line, you want a head shape. You can do an egg shape, that's fine, or you can do like a really good broken down head. From there, you're gonna have the neck run and then the shoulders. The shoulders are gonna come out. Basically, the bottom of the chin is where your shoulder line is gonna be. And then the neck will come down from the sides of the jaw. But the shoulder line should be about 3 heads wide on a male figure or 2.5 heads wide on a female figure. I am doing idealized forms. For basic anatomy, it is a lot easier to just do ideal forms, and then you can take those forms and push and pull them to meet your other anatomical wants and needs. But for now, we're just going to deal with ideal figures. Little Greek gods. Anyways, so from the shoulders and from this point on the neck, you're going to start to run an oval down. And what that oval is going to be and represent is the rib cage. So I have to keep adjusting this. So the shoulders are going to actually come out just a little bit further than the oval. And the oval should be, yeah, so attach here, go there, and should meet the hips. So if you think of this in quarters, sorry, I'm like trying to figure out the math while I'm doing this. So the first quarter is going to be the head. This is the halfway point. So the body's actually going to be broken down into 8ths if you're doing math properly here, or if I'm doing the math properly. Bottom of the feet are going to be way down there. So this is the first 1/8. That's going to represent the head. So the character is 8 heads high because each head portion is going to be another segment. So the rib cage is going to be represented by 2 heads, and the pelvis is going to be represented by 1. The pelvis on a male will not go wider than the rib cage. On the female, usually the pelvis is as wide as the shoulders, or gives the illusion of being as wide as the shoulders. So just do that. Okay, from here is the midpoint. So at this midpoint down here in the bottom half, that is going to be about where the knee sits, and actually it'll be just a little bit higher than that so that we can get the bottoms of the feet in. And then, yeah, because the leg actually starts up there. Yeah, so on top of that halfway line, you're going to have your knees sitting. They're not going to be in the middle of it, they're going to be on top of it. And then that's going to draw that down there. And to represent the limbs right now, you can draw either rectangular boxes if you want to draw like more 3D, or you can do sausagey cylinder type things. Okay, so that's the leg proportion, and the feet are going to be at the bottom, and then a little bit above will be the ankle line. So if you want to go into way crazy breakdowns. All right, so hips portion, good. Okay, now from the arms kind of sit on the outside because they're in a shoulder girdle, which is bones. They don't have an actual socket. They sit in the shoulder girdle, and the what is it called? Shoulder blade actually has a teeny tiny, like, almost cup thing that keeps the arm. That's why it's so easy to dislocate your arm, because it doesn't have a proper socket. Like, do you know how hard it is to dislocate your femur? Your femur is a bone that runs like this, okay? And it's like, it's in your hip. It's got a huge socket in it, and it's super hard to dislocate that, but it also gets worn down really fast. So anyways, the rotary cup, which is in the shoulder blade, that is where you're going to start your arm. The top portion of the arm will actually rest at the bottom of the rib cage, okay? Then the rest of the arm, so that's the elbow, that's the thing. So around the midpoint, around the groin area is where the wrist is going to be, and then about the mid-thigh point is where your hand, the tip of the hand, is going to rest. So this gives you, let's do some basic shapes here. Shapes, 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 shapes. Cylinders and tapered cylinders and tubes and all kinds of things. So this gives you like a little bit more of a breakdown. You can make these feet a little bit longer, but whatever. This guy is going to be this dude. So that's your basic breakdown of proportions for your figure. Now, if we take this figure and we turn him, the next thing you're going to want to notice, what's at the bottom, is that the body has a counterbalancing system. This is how we have balance. So the spine, let's put the head in, okay? And then the spine runs from the back of the head, which is the neck, and curves in and then curves out, okay? And the tailbone's down there, coccyx. So what the spine gives you, and this is a very curved spine, but it gives you the placement of how your forms sit. So right now we're going to use a box to represent the different boxes to represent the limbs. So, or ovals, whatever. Anyway. Okay, so the rib cage sits and it's pushed out like that, okay? And then the hips sit and they are pushed out in the opposite direction. So it does this. Then the legs are the opposite of that, because the femur, which is, it's connected like halfway up the, like just below halfway, sorry, the pelvis. The femur comes forward like this. It's on an angle that is opposite the pelvis, but runs parallel to the rib cage. And then the calf, fibula, tibula, they are the same as the pelvis, but opposite the rib cage and the femur. So obviously if your leg is straight up and locked, that's not, it's still going to have that, but it's not going to be as prominent. So we'll just do that and we'll move it forward a bit. And then the foot sits down here. And then the shape, bum comes out, shape of leg. And then, all right, so about halfway down, okay, so we're in an eighth. In the second eighth of the rib cage, or the second eighth of the top of the box, which is the first eighth of the rib cage, Jesus Christ, first half of the rib cage, math's hard. Anyways, halfway through this portion of the rib cage, you are going to set a ball, which is actually going to be your arm, and your arm runs opposite. The back of the arm will go back, and the front of the arm, so it runs opposite the rib cage and the pelvis. And then it also is, if you look at this, so this is your arm, and then this is your rib cage, this is your pelvis, that is your femur, and that is your fibula, tibia. That's the neck, and then the head. So if you think of the skeleton like this series of counterbalances, it will actually work. Anyway, so the arm sits, the elbow will sit around the bottom of the rib cage. If it was straight up and down, the bottom of the arm would actually be like at about the bottom of the pelvis, and then the hand would rest about mid-thigh. But because this guy's got his arms kicked back, it's not doing that. Just remember those kind of counterbalancy things, and you should be able to make your character look semi-balanced. Anyways, anatomy is one of those things, and proportions, or anatomy and proportions, there are so many methods to making them look right, and it's all so boring and so convoluted, so I'm going to try and make this as interesting as I can over the next few videos. I'm sorry if this video was a little bit long-winded, but if you can remember, basically that the halfway point is at the groin, and your legs should match the bottom of the groin to the top of the head. That's one purport, like, to purport your characters that way. And then for the arms, just make sure that the fingertips don't reach below mid-thigh. Otherwise you get somebody looking like they have kind of monkey arms, so they're like like people do have long arms, but usually the rest of their body will be proportionate. Obviously if you're cartooning, these rules don't really exist, but if you're trying to draw realistic looking characters, just try and keep these things in mind. Also, the head should go into the idealized male about 8 times. If you want to work with the 8ths version of this, which is just math all over the place. Anyway, hopefully this video helped out a little bit. I'm sorry it's so rambly. If you have any questions, please ask. I think the next portion of the anatomy video will be doing the head and torso and working with them and figuring out the muscles on them. The back will probably need its own, it's probably gonna need its own video, but we'll get through it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Bye.